Right. And a critical part of the discussion um, around collaboration and colleges, and there's different literature, but Seamus and I wrote the paper on that. But the different part of the discussion around collaboration and colleges is that there's almost next generation thinking, because something critical has changed. With the new vocation, something critical has changed. And I'll show you what it is now. Firstly, there's your existing system, right? And so there's your college and there's your students. That's always existed. And you will then offer college programs to your students. That's traditional. But now there's a new component. What you now have to take into account, and this is new, is now you have to take into account the workplace. And this changes things quite dramatically, because when you add the workplace into the equation, now that you have to work with workplaces and collaboration, you're adding two critical components to your college. You're adding, firstly, this industry liaison area. That means that you and your colleges, you and the workplace, has to have some kind of liaison function, which didn't necessarily exist before. So now you have lecturers at some colleges. They give lecturers money and say, find us industries. Here, there's a lot of room in this liaison for um, what one of our interviews called managerial botch-ups, where you bring somebody to the college and you don't have the processes to do it. How do you work this into your timetable? Who's gonna fund this industry liaison? And one of the other projects that we did, we found that lots of the colleges and the workplace saying the same thing, that they need this to happen, but nobody was actually doing it because there's no actual capacity for this liaison function. What happens when things goes wrong in the workplace? Who's going to do this liaison function? It's quite a bit of work. It's a substantial area. And think about it, your college, how strong is your industry liaison function for all different colleges? Some cases good liaison functions, other cases not so good. So that's the first thing. You've added, in addition to college programs, which you have over here, we've added industry liaison, and we've added this other one now, which is experiential learning. And here we haven't done much work. Right? So we're starting to look at industry liaison. But what happens here when the students are in the workplace? And I know in the what they used to call the technical colleges, which are now called the universities of technology, um, those whole issue of dumping students at the workplace has become an issue. So how do we make sure that when the students are at the workplace, that there is actual learning going on? And this is something that we may want to come back to later, when we speak about the whole notion, when we speak about this whole notion of restrictive learning environments and expensive learning environments. At the workplace, are they learning or are they carrying tea? Are they just more cheap labor, or are they actually doing stuff that from which they can actually learn? Right? What kind of experiences are they doing? And how does learning happen over here as opposed to in learning that happens in the classroom? What's the difference between these kind of learnings and how do they speak to each other? But now by adding these two new components, you've now added new relationships, because now previously there was a relationship between the college and between the students, and that was linked by a pedagogy. Now you're talking a different kind of competence, people being able to be competent within the workplace environment, what Rauner calls work process knowledge, which we'll be doing in one of the other courses. What happens there? What's the pedagogy that happens over here? And who does it? So your workplace will have to then begin to speak to your college programs. Remember, we spoke about in your estimation, we began to speak about in the white paper, we began to speak about how workplace needs to impact on college programs, but it also happens the other way around. How do college programs influence workplaces? Is there space for innovation, for the diffusion of new knowledges via colleges? Your students should know more than the people who are in the workplace because they are at college. They learn it, people. Then there's also a relationship between what's the relationship between the college and experiential learning. When the students, how does the college manage the experiential learning place? And when the experiential learning, how does this feed back into the college? What are the feedback loops that happen after they've gone through all the stuff? The college shouldn't remain the same. The college should be able to say, but there's new knowledge coming around. There's a relationship between the students and the industry liaison. How does the industry liaison people make sure that the students are ready when they go into the college? And there's all kinds of other relationships. I haven't actually counted them. If my maths is right, it's 6 factorial potential relationships, but I'm not sure if that's the right mathematical formula to use. But there are a whole number of different relationships, and these relationships are not neutral or value free. Right? Different theoretical frameworks will look for different kinds of things out of these different relationships. For example, when the students go on experiential learning, just from I suppose, Agnes's point of view, are they bringing the experiential learning back into the college programs? Suddenly, your students know a whole lot of stuff which you've never seen before. How does your college program handle what they've done? How does the college program speak to what they're going to experience? Will they be ready? Will they be able to show off their knowledge? Have they learned the right kind of knowledge? At which level, when you have a discussion with a mentor, at which level should the mentor be able to pitch their learning? Because one of the things that we had, still another project that we did, one of the issues that came to the attention of the people at the workplace was, oh, they're still students. We can't expect them to be ready at they're still level one. So they must say, at NCV 1, at NCV 2, what can we expect from that? NCV 3, what can we expect from them? Because it's different from the NCV 2s. At NCV 4, what can we expect? So there are different levels at which people should be able to engage with the workplace, and at what level can they engage without breaking the machines? What can they expect and what can they not expect? And how do they develop experiential learning? So just the introduction of this one aspect of the workplace has it's next level thinking, it's next generation thinking in terms of what needs to happen at the college. How does one begin to timetable this? For example, one person I thought a good idea. She said, "How we solve the problem? How do we manage this? Because the industry doesn't have it. When we do the workplace exposure for the staff, we do the students at the same time. Then the staff can go manage the students. So there's all of the different models also for how to do the stuff. So work integrated learning is one aspect of how complex this supply versus demand, how do we develop this collaboration between the two? It's not simply a technical matter. It is a complex matter, and it's something that the college almost needs to map onto its own systems.